So the first topic I'm going to talk about is that the second trailer for Sonic 3 came out. Now, I'm really excited for this movie because I love the Sonic games for Sega Genesis. My favorite Dreamcast game was the first Sonic Adventure. And I've had fun with the first two Sonic movies. I haven't loved them, but Shadow is the main reason why I'm really excited for this. And I thought overall this was a solid second trailer. I still love the first trailer slightly more, but it looks like it has all the fun that you get out of the Sonic movies. And I'll say this, the humor in the first two Sonic movies didn't always land for me. There was times when I thought it was funny, and other times when I thought this was a little goofy for me. But like I said, I had fun with the first two Sonic movies, and it does feel like it still has that humor, which I'm glad about that. Like I don't want it to completely get rid of humor in these Sonic movies. And just overall, it looks like it keeps this movie looks like it has more stakes. And here's the one of the things I really loved about this trailer is that it looks like for this Sonic movie, it's going to be focused on Sonic, his team, and the human characters will be there, but there won't be like a side story, like a wedding in the second one, or it won't be so focused on the humans like in the first movie where it's like a road trip movie. Like to me, this movie is actually going to do what I want the Sonic franchise to do, which is just have the human characters in the background. Because that's one of the kind of issues I've had with the Sonic movie so far is that, besides at times being a little goofy for me, is also the fact that I feel like they focus too much on the human characters in the first two movies, or in the second one they were trying to have a side plot with the wedding. And I'm just like, just have them in the background. Like I don't have a problem having them in there, but let's make a Sonic movie which asks about Sonic and his friends and his enemies. And this looks like this movie's gonna finally do that. So overall, I think this trailer I thought it was a solid second trailer. And Shadow just looks badass in the trailer. Like I love the moment where you see he does get a gun, like in one of the video games, I believe, and he has his bike. And I actually really love that line with Shadow. He's like saying, "The more you talk, the more I want to punch you." I thought that was actually kind of funny, dry sense of humor moment for Shadow when it comes to him maybe finding Sonic a little annoying because he talks so much. To me, I love that moment in the trailer. And it also looks like which I already knew this. I figured Eggman's probably gonna turn on Sonic at some point. Him and his grandpa. Because they show in the first trailer, it's like Sonic goes to Eggman and team up. I'm assuming at some point he turns on and joins his grandpa and Shadow. But it does look like Shadow wants to definitely destroy the world while Eggman wants to rule it. So I'm thinking Shadow's kind of using them and they're using him. But I do like the fact looks like it does get dark at times too, because that's one of the things with Shadow is that he has a very emotional and tragic backstory. And I'm hoping that this Sonic movie maybe has more of a serious tone, not to completely get rid of the humor, but I do want to see a Sonic movie that maybe has more of a serious tone with some humor. So I thought this was just like I said, a solid second trailer, and I cannot wait for Sonic 3. The next topic is so James Gunn was talking about some DC stuff. One of the things he talked about was that he's skipping the origin story with Superman and Batman, which I'll be honest, I'm perfectly fine with that. He said that people have seen them. And I've seen some people go well, this is a new Superman and a new Batman when it comes to the Batman Brave and Bold movie and this Superman movie. Yeah, but for me personally, we've seen Superman's origin story told so many times. You had the Man of Steel movie with Henry Cavill. You had Chris Reeves' original Superman movie. So his origin has been told twice in film already. Then you had Small Boys, lasted 10 years. It's for me personally, I don't need to see Superman's backstory and see Krypton explode and him land on a planet and Martha and Jonathan raising him to Kent. It's I've seen that already. You know, I love Superman. I love origin stories, but I feel for me personally, this is kind of how I look at comic characters. Is that you can only do the origin story twice in film because you can't really do anything to change it up after that. It's people know what Superman's backstory is. They know Krypton explodes and that he is sent to Earth. Same with Batman. I've seen Batman's parents shot in so many films. I'm happy to move on from that. One of the things I really loved about the Robert Pattinson Batman movie was that, yes, it was a Batman in his early. It was Batman in year one with year two, I believe. Like I think it was year two, but it was Batman that was starting out, but we weren't like doing a whole origin movie where it was showing like how he gets his gadgets to cave and his parents dying. It's like I've seen all that with Batman. I don't need to see his parents shot, gunned down for like the 100th time already. Like you had Tim Burton's original Batman movie, which did it, where Joker was the killer. You had Batman Begins, which was an origin story also. You even had the Gotham show as a kid Bruce Wayne. You saw his parents die in Batman v Superman, also with Ben Affleck's Batman. It's like I don't need a personally don't need another backstory of like these two particular characters. Like to me, once you've seen an origin story done twice in film, I really don't feel like you need to see it again. One of the reasons why one is I loved about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies with Homecoming is that when you meet him in Captain America Civil War, he's been Spider-Man for a little bit at least. It's not like we're going through the whole thing of him getting bit by a spider, like showing him before he gets the powers and all that. It's like, okay, we know what happens to Peter Parker. He gets bit by a spider, he loses his uncle. For me, I'm like, there's certain characters that we've always seen the origin story told multiple times that we don't really need to see it being told for like a third, fourth, fifth time. So I'm perfectly like happy about this that he's not doing that. And this is a side thing, but one of the things he also talked about is that his Superman movie is going to be serious and family friendly. It's going to how like what they're trying to do with these DC movies is make every DC movie feel different tone wise, which I love hearing that because every character has their own style and tone to the characters in the comics. How you say like one DC comic could be really dark, one can be really lighthearted and funny, one can be supernatural, different genres, different tones. And I do think you need to do that if you're gonna have a universe. And I also think these DC characters, they all different in the comics. And one thing I love about the fact he said about Superman being serious and family friendly is that, to me, I've said this multiple times on Facebook posts I put, and kind of why I love Superman is that he should be family friendly because at the end of the day, I always say this about Superman. Who Superman is at his core is Clark Kent. The morality, the goodness, the optimistic, the hopefulness, the stuff that Martha and Jonathan taught him. Because to me, you can have a serious Superman, but you can still have some fun with the character too. And I think James Gunn is going to bend that back. Like one of the things that didn't really click for me with Superman Returns and Man of Steel is that Bryan Singer and Zack Snyder both felt like they had to make it the focus on him being a god so much that it just felt to me, Superman's never really had personalities. Like when I watched Brandon Routh and Superman Returns, when I watched Henry Cavill in his movies, I never felt like they really had personalities with their versions of Superman. Like the reason I love the Dean Cain show, the reason I love the 90s Superman animated series, the reason I love the first two original Chris Reeve Superman movies, the reason I love Smallville, the reason I love the current Superman Lois show, is because yes, he's a serious character, but he also has some fun with the character too. Like I always say this for Superman, he's supposed to be an inspiration. He's supposed to be the idea of Superman is that we can strive to be better. I love the fact he says it all have different tones. Like when you go to the thing I loved about the Robert Pattinson Batman movie is that it has that dark, gritty tone that I love about Batman, where he's a twisted character. He's not the optimistic character. He prepares for the worst. And to me, if you're gonna make a DC universe, every character should have their unique tone and style to them. Yes, you should but you also should make the universe where it feels like every character fits into the universe. But I think family family fits perfectly what Superman is. That yes, he's a serious character, but you can also have some fun with the character. He's not a character that's like he's to me. It's not about the God aspect of Superman. It's about the Clark Kent aspect. It's the fact that he is optimistic. So, and like I said, this more has to do with the fact that I just love the fact he's saying that every DC character is going to have their own tone and style. So I love hearing that. Again, everything he's saying, James Gunn, to me so far shows that he loves the comics, and it shows that this is somebody who's passionate about. Like, I know some people that just doubt James Gunn, and I can understand that if you just don't like his movies. I get that if you're just not a fan of his movies, but as someone who's seen all of his movies, I mean, most of all his movies he's made, I loved. There's been like two movies of his. There's been two movies of his where it comes to Super, which I didn't like, and Guardians 2, which I enjoyed but not great. Like those are his two weakest movies for me. But he's had way more hits than miss with his directing so far, and I just think he comes off like somebody who really loves the comics. So to me, I think it makes perfect sense not to do Batman and Superman's origin. We don't need to see Krypton explode. We don't need to see Batman's parents gunned down for the 100th time again. Like, to me, I am glad we're skipping that part of those characters. The next thing is Kraven is projected to open between 20 and 25. Whereas, I'm going to be honest, I think it could open lower than that to maybe 15. This movie, here's the problem with this Kraven movie. I don't think anybody particularly is excited for this. I don't think fans really want to see a Kraven movie. I think they want to see Kraven in a Spider-Man movie. And the trailers to me have not looked good for this movie personally. I don't think the trailers have done a very good job of getting people excited. And the Sony Spider-Verse is on a bad streak right now. Look, the first two Venom movies made money, and Venom 3 is doing better than what I thought it would do internationally. And it could maybe pass Venom 2, but, it's not like it's doing great. And it wasn't received well. And then you had Morbius and Madame which was like just terrible. They were received horribly. They were terrible movies. Venom 3 was terrible also, and Kraven, he's a popular character in comic book fans, but outside of comic book fans, like it's not like Venom. Whereas the Venom character, I think if you ask somebody who just doesn't know the comics, I think there'll be a lot of people that wouldn't know who Venom is, even if you're not a comic book fan, just based on the iconic look of Venom and just the character. Spider-Man's other villains, they don't have that thing like Venom does, where you have people who know who the character is outside of comic book fans. Like a lot of comic book fans know who Kraven is, but if you ask somebody who doesn't know the comics, I guarantee more people than not would not know who Kraven is. The people who don't read the comics. And I think I think the fact that Madame Web and Morbius didn't do well, I think the Sony verse about Spider-Man is just, I think that's hurt Kraven's chances too, because Venom 3 wasn't received well, those two movies won't receive well, and as much as those first two Venom movies made money, it's not like they will receive the greatest in the world. And I feel like people have kind of reached the point with this Sony versus Spider-Man where they just don't care. It's kind of reached the DCEU level, in my opinion, where it's just like people are just like, really? You're still trying to do these movies? And personally, I have no excitement for the Kraven movie. I mean, I'll probably end up seeing it because it's a Marvel character. But I'm not going to lie and sit here and say I'm excited for that movie because I'm not. I don't think it looks very good. I think a lot of people just feel that way about this movie. So it opened in 2025. I'm not surprised. I think it could even open lower than that just based on the excitement for this movie, which I feel like is just not there. So, I mean, hopefully the movie ends up being good, even though my expectations are really low for the Kraven movie personally. The next thing is, so James Gunn also is saying that there is multiple R-rated projects in development. And that's definitely interesting because I'm glad to hear that they're all going to do R-rated stuff too and not just do PG-13, because I do like the fact that he's saying, like, I do like this also, that he says whatever the story demands. And that's good to hear that when you start a universe, that he's saying that, look, we'll do an R-rated movie if it suits the character. To not do R-rated just for the sake of R-rated. And there is some DC characters I think you could make some R-rated movies about. Like, I know he said they have plans for Deathstroke, which I think you could make that an R-rated movie. I think that could be one R-rated character. I think Swamp Thing could definitely be R-rated too. I think that could be an R-rated movie. And I'm sure there's some DC characters in the comics that you could make R-rated films about. Or maybe some villain-type characters. So, I definitely think DC probably has some characters you could go R-rated. I'm definitely curious to see what other R-rated DC movies, like what other characters that they're working on. Again, this makes me more excited for James Gunn's DC universe. The next thing is Moana 2. So the reactions for Moana 2 have come out and it's saying it's great, it's fantastic. With one thing is that people are saying the songs are fun and good in this movie, but they're not quite as good as the songs in the first Moana movie. Which that doesn't bother me too much. Like if I come out of a movie saying this is a great movie story and character wise, but the music is fun, but not as like memorable as the music in the first movie, that doesn't really personally bother me. Like as long as the story is great and I really get invested in the story and characters like I did in the first movie, and the songs are just the songs just end up being like those solid good songs, but not on the level of the first one. That doesn't sound like that's big of a negative because otherwise, if Yasin is saying it's fantastic story, characters, emotion, and all that, and that's the part that makes me more excited. I'm glad to hear. So it sounds like from Yasin's that one or two end up being really great, good to great like the first one, which I hope it is because I love the first one movie and I can't wait to see the sequel. The next thing, and the last thing to talk about is Denzel Washington was saying that Equalizer 4 and 5 is in development. And I would be excited to see Equalizer 4 and 5. Like, I love the first Equalizer movie with Denzel Washington. I love the third one. The second one, I enjoyed, but for me, it's the one in the trilogy I find to be kind of forgettable. Like, it's not bad Equalizer 2, but it's one of those sequels where I'm like, I enjoyed, had a decent time with it, but it just if I'm in the mood to watch an Equalizer movie, I'm always gonna go to the first and third one more than I'll go to the second one. And I also think that the third one I feel like the third one was kind of a great end to his character in that movie. That I'm actually curious where you would go story wise after that because like his character doesn't die at the end of the movie, but I kind of feel like the way the story ends in that movie, I kind of feel like his character found peace. So I'm curious like where you would go to the story. But I love what Denzel Watson saying that people love seeing me kill bad guys, and I do love seeing that in those Equalizer movies, and he's great in those movies. So I would definitely be down to see more Equalizer movies. Like I'm gonna say the fact they said like they have the fourth and fifth one in development because if they can keep up the quality, then I'll definitely be down to see a bunch of these movies. So that's all my movie thoughts today. Until next time, movie fans.